And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, Tom Vasel here. Today we're taking a look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Dice Master Dice Building Game. Now, Dice Masters is a game that I love a lot. And just so you know from the onset here, I've already reviewed Dice Masters. You can go back and look at my Marvel Dice Masters review to see how to play the game itself. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of someone who plays Dice Masters a lot. However, I do need to make it clear that when you buy this, you are buying a complete set. Dice Masters is a collectible game where there's rares and commons and uncommons, and you're never sure what you're going to get. Except you buy a starter deck, you know what you get in that, but after that, you're buying boosters. In Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when you buy this, you get everything in the entire set. There's no rares, there's no commons. It is compatible with all the other Dice Masters. You can mix it and match it, but you are buying a complete game here. Again, I'm going to be taking a look at this kind of from someone who's like, oh, what new stuff is in here? So I'm not going to tell you how the game is played, but if you've never played it before, the game is amazing. I love Dice Masters. How does the Turtles universe fit into it? Here we go. So first, of course, we'll look at the dice that are in the game. This is pretty much all the dice that you get. And of course, a lot of them are basic action dice, and we have the different color dice. Yeah, there's really no bad dice. I'm always looking for that one die that's hard to read. My favorite die is probably this die here, because it's hard to maybe see there, but it has a bit of a clear red going through it. And this is Splinter's die. The turtle dice are, of course, all green, which makes sense. They're each green with a different color in the background. They look good. Of course, you know, the turtle dice should be green or we put the game away. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, I have to say I like the dice. The pink die looks good. Splinter's other die looks good. We'll talk about why Splinter has two different dice in a bit. The purple dice also look really good. So that's the dice, but we're here really to look at the cards, right? So first we have the Turtles. And what they did here, this really, you got to think of this set as an intro set because they have one of each turtle that is simply blank. For a cost of 4 for the Turtles, you can have Donatello, Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Raphael, all simply blank. But then you can also, there's also with special abilities. Now you have ones that have turtle power on them. All other dice for Turtles cost 1 less. So they have these turtle powers, and many of them have different kinds of turtle powers that basically work with the other turtles. And then, of course, there's a big Leonardo. This one's more powerful when he's active. The other turtle characters' dice cost 1 less to purchase. And they have different stats, but for the most part, their stats are very similar. And they're kind of expensive, the Turtles, but since you can have that turtle power and effect to make them cheaper to buy and field, you know, I mean, you're probably going to play with all 4 together, and they certainly made it that way. Of course, the Turtles need allies, and so we have April, who's a ninja in training. She's an ally, just like very similar to Mary Jane and just the Jarvis, the different people from the other universes. And of course, we have Casey Jones, who's a very inexpensive character, which is good because the Turtles are higher priced. Here, his guy can't be blocked by sidekicks. I particularly like this one. If your life total is less than 15 and he's blocked, you gain a life. It's a nice, and he's cheap, only 2 to cost. Then we have Splinter. Now, oddly enough, there are actually 2 Splinters in the game. One of them looks more silly than the other one. They have different stats on them. This is kind of an odd decision by WizKids to do this. Aren't there other allies that the Turtles could have? Wingnut, Screwloose, Slash. Why did they need to have 2 Splinters? You can't actually even field a team of 8 good guys because there's only 7. There's 2 Splinters. I just think it's an odd thing. But they do have different special abilities. Most of them, this guy here helps the Turtles out a lot. We also have lots of villains against the Turtles. We have Rocksteady. Yay for Rocksteady. Armed and Dangerous, the Mutant Rhino, Rough and Tumble. You'll notice that most of his cards work with Bebop. And Bebop's cards work with Rocksteady. There is no reason you would take one of these guys and not the other. So Bebop and Rocksteady, of course, people are excited to see them coming in a new movie. But I like having guys that work together well. Then, of course, the bad guys need their basically regular guys. Swarm is interesting. This is the first time I've seen Swarm that I know of outside of the Dungeons & Dragons Dice Masters, where when you swarm and you get one of these dice, you can get another die. When you have a swarm active die and then you draw another copy, you can draw and roll an extra die from your bag, which can be really handy. So this is just a really good die, the Swarm Foot Ninjas. But they're not the only one. There's also Foot Ninjas who are allies. And then there's Fugitoid here. When he's active, other villain and turtle character dice can't attack unless their owner pays 1 to ignore this effect until the end of the turn, which is kind of an odd thing. But if you're the villains, maybe you want to kind of slow down the other team. Who knows? Mouser's here. He's +1 attack and +1 defense, while another character is an active character with a when fielded ability, like Bebop there. When fielded, deal 1 damage to target player if Rocksteady's there. So you can see that Rocksteady, Bebop, and Mousers. Again, this set is deliberately made so that these people work together. We also have Baxter Stockman, all the Mousers dice. So he works with Mousers, just like Bebop and Rocksteady. Baxter and Mousers work together. Krang works with himself? I've never really understood Krang. He's such a weird character. His character has this one in particular. I like his as regenerate, which means when he's knocked out, you roll the die, and there's a chance he comes back in. Here he doesn't, but there's a chance. Also, that's a good-looking die for whatever reason. Then, of course, the leader of the bad guys, Shredder. And there's even an 8-cost Shredder, which when he's fielded, all villain dice move from the use pile to your prep area. And that's really powerful. But 8 is a very expensive die, and they're hard to get in there. All right, let's talk about basic action cards. Well, this game would be remiss if they did not include Pizza. This is the only basic action card in the game of Dice Masters that costs 1. That's because it's pretty pathetic. You just gain a life, and you can only do it if you have 15 or 14 or less life. But, I don't know. It costs 1, and sometimes you just want 1 extra die. I could see this being used. Of course, we also have the Turtles Van, which can prevent damage to a blocking character. The Heroes in a Half Shell card, which helps. It gives you a +2 attack and also gives +2 defense to turtles. Never real keen on these cards because they're very specific. Like this one is specific towards turtle characters. This one here makes a target non-turtle character not blocked till the end of the turn. Here your character gets +2 defense, possibly +3 defense. This Reckless Abandon does 1 damage to each character die or damage to players and each character die. Enraged. This is probably my favorite basic action card because it gives 2 of your dice +1 attack and Overcrush, which means if they're blocked, they still do damage. I like that one a lot. Draw 2 dice from your bag and roll them. This is a very similar die to one of the ones that came in the original Marvel Dice Masters game. Cowabunga. If you have only 1 die, you get +4 attack and Overcrush to the end of your turn. Or you give them all +1 attack. That's another basic action card. I don't believe I've seen this one before, but I do like it. And then the most expensive action die is Lethal Blow, where you can move a character from the field zone to the prep area. So you basically get rid of somebody, a level 1, or you can eventually target any character in the field zone, or put them back in the bag. It's crazy. It's really a pretty powerful card. So those are some of the cards in the game. There's more. I didn't show you every card, but I did show you all the different characters in the game. Now, I will be honest, I am not as steeped in turtle lore as many people are. I know about the Teenage Mutant Turtles. I've seen many of the cartoons. I have seen the movies. I have not read the original comic books, so I do not pretend to be anyone who's based on turtles. But I do know a lot about the turtles because they're just that steeped in popular culture. And it seems like this game brings a lot of that stuff in there. If you have Pizza and you have Cowabunga and you have April O'Neil and you have, the 4 different turtles and things, it works. The game itself, if you were somebody who's collecting everything Dice Masters, and you're like, oh, should I add this set? Well, if you're collecting everything, yes. If you're not, I don't know, because it's fine, but I think you should get this if you like the turtles. There's a few cards in here that are pretty cool. You're like, oh, wow. And I'm curious in like tournaments, well, how many of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards will show up in tournament play? You never know. I don't know. That would be an interesting thing to see. But I think this is best as a self-contained set. It really is. This is a gift to give someone. The rule book, the rule book's really nice. It's the nicest of all the rule books. It walks you through, plays a very small, basic game, gets you into the more involved in the farther game, then walks you through an example game, then even has the doubles quick start rules in the back, which are nice because they were originally only available online. And so I like that. And then the whole thing comes in a box, which has a tray here, which you can put all the things in. It's essentially just like Warriors was released, and then the whole thing fits easily on the shelf. So it has 92 dice in it. I'm not sure how many characters are in it. There's 16 times 3. There's 16 characters, I think. 3 incarnations of each. Actually, it would probably tell me right on here. 48 character dice. Oh, I'm pretty good. 16. So anyhow, there is a lot in here, and you're going to get a lot of variety, but you'll probably end up playing Turtles and Allies and against the bad guys. I mean, you don't have to play with 8. So like I said, even though they didn't include 8 characters, I don't know why they didn't. You can play with just 7 characters against the bad guys, and maybe you can mix it up. Maybe you want to play with Bebop and Michelangelo, or going up against Leonardo and Splinter. I don't know. You can do that sort of thing, but that I think a lot of people have a problem thematically with. However, once you add into the bigger universe, hey, maybe the Turtles want to have Spider-Man join their team, and now they're going to go up against the Sinister Six and Superman, who decided to go bad or whatever. Who knows? You can mix it in. And I'm going to, because I like Dice Masters. But taking everything else aside, if you've never played Dice Masters before, this is an excellent set to get in. There are some of the cards are repeats of older cards. Some of the everything in here is very basic. There's a few keywords, Overcrush and Swarm, a few of them, very few. I don't believe there's global abilities in here at all, which is one of the more confusing things from Dice Masters. And I've never been a huge fan of global abilities anyway, so I don't miss them. So if you are trying to get someone into Dice Masters and they've never played it before and they like Turtles, then this is an instant buy for them. This is an excellent game. If you are someone who doesn't like the Turtles, then I might pass on this one because they are kind of steeped in here. Unless, of course, you must have everything Dice Masters. If you're someone like me who likes the Turtles and just wants more stuff, check it out. It is cool that you do get everything. You don't need to worry about collecting the rares and commons and all that. So that's a positive in that direction. And I wonder if we'll see more of these sets come out in the future, or if we'll even see more Turtles. As it is, I like it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Dice Masters. Did I mention that the game actually comes with 4 bags? So you can play 4 players also. They had to have 1 for each turtle. Anyhow, Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!